Welcome to Sarah Wood's Tale, where stories comes alive. Please do well to hit that subscription button and turn on your notification bell for subsequent stories. The rain came down like the sky was weeping. It was midnight, and the cold wind bit through Hannah's thin dress. She stood in front of the house she once called home, her hands shaking, one resting protectively over her swollen belly. "Timothy, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I swear, I didn't do anything wrong." Timothy stood at the door, his jaw tight, eyes cold. "Save it, Hannah. Rebecca told me everything. You've been sneaking around with other men while carrying my child?" "That's not true," Hannah cried. "I've never looked at another man. Rebecca hates me, you know that." "She had proof," he snapped. "She saw you talking to some guy near the market, laughing like old lovers." "That was the tailor, Timothy," Hannah pleaded, her eyes filling with tears. "He was fixing my dress for your mother's birthday. I was only being polite." But Timothy had already stepped back, grabbing a small bag and tossing it outside. "Take your things and leave. I don't want to see your face again." Rain soaked Hannah's hair and clothes. She didn't care. Her heart had already shattered. "You're kicking me out? At midnight? In this storm? While I'm pregnant with your child?" Timothy looked away, jaw clenched. "I don't even know if that child is mine anymore." Hannah gasped, her knees weak. "How can you say that? After everything?" "Leave, Hannah," he said flatly, shutting the door with a heavy thud. Hannah stood there, frozen, as the lights went off inside. No one came out to help. Not even Timothy's mother. And Rebecca, she was probably inside smiling, watching her plan fall perfectly into place. The rain poured harder. Lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder roared like it was angry for her. She turned slowly, clutching her belly. The pain in her chest was unbearable, not physical but deep and soul-crushing. She began walking, barefoot, with only the small bag Timothy had thrown. Each step was heavy. She had no idea where she was going, just that she had to keep walking for the babies growing inside her. By the time Hannah collapsed, it was almost 2 a.m. She had walked miles in the rain, through muddy roads, past quiet houses. Her strength had given out. She fell in front of a big gate, unconscious. The house behind the gate belonged to Mr. Edward King, a wealthy, older man in his late 50s. He was up late, reading by the fire when his security guard came running in. "Sir, there's a girl at the gate. She's not moving." Mr. King stood up quickly, grabbing his coat. "What? In this rain? Show me." They rushed out with an umbrella, and when Mr. King saw her, his heart sank. "She's just a child," he muttered. "Get her inside." The guards carried Hannah into the mansion, wrapping her in blankets. A nurse was called immediately. Hours passed. At dawn, Hannah opened her eyes to soft pillows and the scent of medicine. She tried to sit up but winced. "Easy," a calm voice said. "You're safe here." She looked up to see Mr. King, sitting beside her with gentle eyes. Where am I?" she whispered. "My home," he said. "You collapsed at my gate last night. What's your name?" "Hannah," she murmured. "Hannah Williams. You're lucky we found you. You were soaking wet and freezing. And, you're pregnant." Tears filled her eyes again. "I didn't know where else to go." He nodded. "You don't need to tell me everything now. Just rest. You'll stay here until you recover. No one will hurt you here." It was the first time in days that Hannah felt safe. Weeks passed. Mr. King gave Hannah her own room, warm meals, and clothes. She didn't ask for anything. She spent most of her time quietly helping the house staff. One day, Mr. King watched her carefully arranging books on the shelf. "You're not a maid," he said. She turned, startled. "I know. I just wanted to help." He nodded. "You're disciplined. And kind. You remind me of my daughter. She passed years ago." "I'm sorry," Hannah said gently. He sighed. "Life can be cruel. But sometimes, pain makes us stronger." He paused. "Do you have plans? For the baby?" She looked down. "I have no one. No family. No money. I was thrown out." Mr. King stared at her for a long moment. Then maybe this is a new beginning, he said. Over the months, Mr. King became more than a savior. He became a father figure. He taught her how to run errands, manage books, and introduced her to his office assistants. Hannah gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, with Mr. King by her side at the hospital. She named them Samuel and Rachel. They are your strength now, Mr. King told her. You are not alone anymore. When the babies were old enough to sleep through the night, Hannah began working full-time in Mr. King's logistics company. She started with simple tasks, typing, filing, attending small meetings. But Mr. King noticed something rare in her: focus, intelligence, and hunger to learn. You're a fast learner, he said one day. You could be much more. She smiled shyly. Thank you, sir. I just want to make a life for my children. You will. In fact, I want to send you abroad for training. A short business course. It will help you grow. Hannah's eyes widened. Abroad? But the twins? They'll stay here, safe. I'll take care of everything. You need to spread your wings. And so she did. 3 years passed. Then 5. Then 10. Hannah grew into a sharp businesswoman. With Mr. King's help and her own determination, she opened a small air charter company. It started with 1 helicopter, then expanded to 3 small jets. She named the company Phoenix Skies, a symbol of her rise from the ashes. Every decision she made, every late night she worked, was for her children. Samuel and Rachel grew up knowing their mother was strong, brave, and smart. They learned business from her and kindness from Mr. King. By the time Hannah turned 47, Phoenix Skies had become one of the top luxury aviation services in Africa. She had built an empire. But something was still missing: closure. One day, as she stood on her private runway watching a jet take off, Rachel came to her. Mom, she said. You always told us to never forget where we came from. Are you ever going back there? Hannah stared at the sky. Yes, she said quietly. It's time. Timothy sat on the wooden bench outside the house, staring into space. The once busy compound was quiet, too quiet. The walls, once freshly painted, now had cracks. The gates creaked in the wind. The garden was overgrown with weeds. He looked old for his age. The weight of stress, loss, and regret had added years to his face. His hair was grey at the sides, and his eyes held a sadness he no longer tried to hide. Inside, his aging mother coughed loudly from the living room. Timothy, she called out weakly, have you taken your medicine today? I'll get it, Ma, he said, rising slowly. As he walked into the living room, he passed a dusty photo frame of his late wife, Rebecca. He paused, staring at her smiling face. She had passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. In her final days, she had confessed everything: how she lied to Timothy about Hannah all those years ago. She didn't cheat, Tim, Rebecca had whispered, lying frail on her hospital bed. I made it all up. I was jealous. I wanted you for myself, so I destroyed her. Timothy had stood there, frozen. The truth hit him like a truck. I chased Hannah away, and the child, they were innocent, he asked in a broken voice. Rebecca nodded, crying. I'm sorry. I ruined everything. She died 2 days later, leaving him with the truth and a pain he could never erase. Since then, life had gone downhill. His once successful transport business had collapsed. Bad investments, debts, and betrayals from business partners stripped him of everything. The cars were sold. The drivers left. The office was shut down. Now, he was a man with no company, no wife, and no children. He looked around the house. The silence was loud. His mother, now in her 80s, still lived with him. She was too weak to move much, and he took care of her as best as he could. Timothy, she called again, can you check if there's still bread left? Timothy went to the kitchen. The cupboards were almost empty. He sighed and leaned on the counter. How did it all come to this? He whispered to himself. But deep inside, he knew the answer. He had turned away the one person who truly loved him, Hannah. And not just her, but also their unborn child. Now, the house that once rang with laughter and the sound of car engines was just a shell filled only with dust, memories, and regret. The sun was shining brightly over the small town airstrip. Birds flew overhead, and the air buzzed with quiet curiosity. A loud sound broke the stillness. A private jet descended from the sky, smooth and majestic. Its silver body sparkled in the light as it touched down with grace. Locals gathered near the fence, staring in amazement. "Who's that?" a boy asked, tugging on his father's shirt. "I don't know," the man replied, squinting. "But that's not an ordinary plane." As the jet rolled to a stop, the doors opened slowly. A staircase lowered, and two people appeared at the top, a young man and woman, both dressed in perfectly tailored navy suits. They wore dark glasses, their faces calm and confident. The crowd gasped. "They look like models," someone whispered. "Are they celebrities?" Behind them, a third figure emerged. She was older, but elegant and graceful. Dressed in a cream suit and heels, she stepped out like royalty. Hannah Williams. A well-known journalist standing nearby blinked in shock. "That's her. That's Hannah Williams, CEO of Phoenix Skies." The press quickly rushed forward, flashing cameras. Miss Hannah, is it true you started this company from nothing? Who are the twins with you? Are you here for business or family?" Hannah smiled calmly, lowering her sunglasses. "This trip is personal," she said. "Very personal." She turned to Samuel and Rachel. "Let's go." They entered two black SUVs waiting nearby, their private guards escorting them. As the vehicles drove off, the crowd buzzed with excitement. "Phoenix Skies," a man whispered. "She owns that company with the blue jets?" "Yes," another answered. "She's one of the richest women in Africa now." Timothy had just finished folding his mother's laundry when he heard a knock at the front gate. "Who could that be?" his mother asked, adjusting her shawl from the couch. "I'll check," he said, wiping his hands. He opened the gate slowly. What he saw made him freeze completely. A luxury SUV parked in front of the house. Standing by the gate were two young adults, tall and confident. But his eyes locked on the woman stepping forward. Her face. It was Hannah. She hadn't aged much, only matured. Her eyes were still kind, but there was a strength in them now that wasn't there before. She looked at him without flinching. "Hello, Timothy," she said softly. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His knees weakened. "Hannah," he finally whispered. "Is it really you?" "It's me," she said. Samuel stepped forward, removing his sunglasses. "You must be Timothy Dawson." Timothy looked at the boy's face. He had Timothy's nose, his eyes. And the girl beside him, Rachel, looked like a younger version of Hannah. Realization hit him like thunder. "These are our." "Yes," Hannah said, steady. "These are your children." He staggered back, holding the gate for balance. Hannah, I didn't know. I swear. I was told you cheated. Rebecca lied to me. I didn't know the truth until she was dying." "I know," Hannah said. "I heard. But you didn't believe me. You didn't even let me explain." "I was a fool," Timothy whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "I lost everything, but losing you, that was the real punishment." He looked at Samuel and Rachel. "You're both so grown. So beautiful." Samuel nodded. "We came to see where we came from." Rachel added, "Not to hurt you, but to see the truth for ourselves." Timothy broke down, falling to his knees. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I was a terrible man. I don't deserve your forgiveness." Hannah stood quietly for a moment. Then she knelt beside him. "I didn't come here to seek revenge," she said softly. "I came to bring peace to myself, and to them." She took his hand gently. "But I also came to let you see what you turned away." Timothy cried harder, clutching her hand like it was the only thing keeping him from drowning. Inside the house, his mother watched from the window, tears streaming down her face. "I told him she was innocent," she whispered. The silence was deep, but the air was full of emotions long buried, now rising. Hannah stood up, the twins beside her. "We'll be at the Blue Horizon Hotel for the week," she said gently. "If you ever want to talk." She turned and walked away, Samuel and Rachel following. Timothy remained kneeling at the gate, tears dropping onto the dusty ground. He had spent 27 years chasing shadows and regrets. And now, the woman he threw away had returned. In a jet. With twins. Timothy stood near the front door, unsure of whether to step outside or stay hidden. His heart was pounding. The image of Hannah's face from yesterday wouldn't leave his mind. The twins, his twins, looked just like him. He hadn't slept all night. Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door. His mother peeked from the living room. "Are you going to open it, Timothy?" He didn't reply. The knock came again. This time firmer. He slowly walked to the door, every step heavy. He opened it, and there she was. Hannah. She was dressed simply this time, in a white blouse and grey slacks. But her presence was still powerful. Behind her stood Samuel and Rachel, silent, composed. Timothy opened his mouth, but no words came. Hannah looked directly into his eyes. "Do you remember the night it rained?" she asked calmly. Timothy's breath caught in his throat. It was as if a ghost had spoken. "Why yes," he whispered. "I remember. It was midnight. I was pregnant. You threw me out into a storm, because of a lie." He closed his eyes, ashamed. "I was young. Foolish. I let my anger and pride speak louder than your voice," he said, almost choking on the words. Samuel stepped forward. "We came to hear the truth. Not from the past. From now." Rachel folded her arms. "We want to know who our father is. And why he never came looking." Timothy's legs trembled, and he sank into the old wooden chair on the porch. "I thought you were gone forever," he said weakly. "And I didn't deserve to look." Inside, his mother, Mrs. Dawson, stepped out quietly. She was holding a handkerchief and already crying. "Oh, Hannah," she said in a trembling voice. "You're alive. And strong." Hannah's face softened when she saw the old woman. "Yes, Mama Dawson. I'm alive." The old woman shuffled closer and took Hannah's hand. "I told him, all those years ago. I told him you were a good girl." "I know you did," Hannah said, gently hugging her. They both cried softly for a moment, their shared pain hanging in the air. Suddenly, the front door opened behind them. A figure stepped out slowly. Rebecca. Her once proud face was pale now, aged and tired. Her eyes didn't meet anyone's. "I thought you were dead," she said, barely above a whisper. "No," Hannah replied. "You tried to destroy me. But I rose." Rebecca's hands shook. I was jealous. I saw how he looked at you. How much he loved you. I wanted that love. So I took it, with a lie." Rachel's voice was sharp. "You destroyed our family." Samuel clenched his jaw. "You made him throw our mother into the street while pregnant." Rebecca turned away, covering her face. "I have nothing to say in my defense," she whispered. "I was wrong. I ruined everything." There was silence. Then Hannah stepped forward. "I didn't come here to fight. I came for the truth to be known to my children, to myself, and to him." She turned to Timothy. "Now the truth is here. What you do with it is your choice." Then she turned and walked back toward the car, with Samuel and Rachel following her. Timothy sat frozen, watching them go like a man who had just seen the ghost of everything he'd lost. Later that evening, Hannah sat in the lounge of the Blue Horizon Hotel, sipping tea. The twins sat across from her, silent. Rachel finally spoke. "Mom, why did you come back?" Hannah looked at her daughter and smiled softly. "Because healing has to happen face to face. Not from afar." Samuel nodded. "But how did you survive? After everything?" Hannah looked out the window as memories flooded her mind. "It wasn't easy," she began. "The night I was thrown out, I walked until my legs gave way. I collapsed outside a stranger's gate. They leaned in, listening. That stranger was Mr. Edward King. He took me in, gave me food and a place to sleep. He saw potential in me, even when I couldn't see it in myself." Flashbacks filled Hannah's mind of washing floors in Mr. King's office, then slowly learning business terms, attending night classes, and staying up all night nursing babies and studying. "I worked as a cleaner at his aviation firm. But he saw how curious I was. One day he asked me, 'Hannah, do you want more out of life?' I said yes. She paused, smiling. He taught me business. I saved every coin I earned. I got scholarships, studied hard. I built Phoenix skies with my own hands. Rachel's eyes sparkled with tears. That's why you named it Phoenix? Yes, Hannah said. Because I rose from the ashes. Stronger. There was a knock at the hotel suite. It was Timothy. He stood at the door, holding a small photo frame. May I come in? He asked quietly. Samuel opened the door and nodded. Timothy stepped inside and looked at the children. I brought this, he said, handing the photo to Hannah. It was a picture of her from over 2 decades ago. She was laughing, holding a flower. I kept it, he said. All these years. I looked at it every day. Hannah's hands trembled as she held it. I don't expect forgiveness, Timothy said, facing her. I don't even deserve to be in this room. But I need you to know. I loved you. I just didn't know how to protect that love. He looked at Samuel and Rachel. And I failed as a father. Completely. He sank into a chair and placed his head in his hands. I let pride blind me. Rebecca told me lies, and I didn't even let you speak. I thought love was supposed to be easy. I didn't know love meant trusting even when it's hard. There was silence. Then Rachel stood. You don't get to cry now, she said coldly. You had 27 years to think. We were raised without you. Mom built an empire while you were chasing lies. Rachel, Hannah said softly, placing a hand on her daughter's arm. She needs to hear it, Rachel insisted. She was gold and you threw her away like trash. Timothy's eyes filled with tears. I know, he whispered. And I live with that every day. Samuel stepped forward. What happens next is up to Mom. We're not here to make decisions for her. Hannah looked at Timothy. I don't hate you, she said. But I will never forget. He nodded slowly. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of what you became. And I'm sorry I couldn't be the man you needed me to be. Hannah looked at him for a long time, then stood. You'll see us again, she said. But not as a broken woman and rejected children. You'll see us as people who healed without your help. She walked toward the door, pausing only once. Timothy, she said. You didn't just lose gold, you threw it into the fire. And it came out as something you can never afford again. Then she left with her twins, leaving Timothy standing in silence, holding the picture of the woman he once loved and would never deserve again. It had been just 3 days since Hannah Dawson returned to town, and already, the entire community was buzzing like a hive. At the local cafe, 2 older women sat with steaming cups of tea, whispering. Did you see her jet land at the airstrip? One said, wide-eyed. Of course, the other replied. And those twins, so polished. Like royalty. She used to scrub floors at Mrs. Ken's bakery, a younger lady chimed in. Now she owns an airline. People who once avoided Hannah now couldn't stop talking about her. Back in the day, they whispered behind her back, calling her all sorts of names, the girl who got pregnant without a husband, the girl thrown out in the rain. But now they were lining up to say hello, hoping she would notice them. At the market, vendors gave her free fruit. At the local church, the pastor suddenly remembered Hannah used to sing in the choir as a teenager. And at the town council office, Mayor David, a stout man with a thick mustache and a louder-than-necessary laugh, decided it was time to act. She's powerful now, he said to his secretary. We should invite her to the next development meeting. Maybe give her a community award or something. So, the mayor arranged a public dinner in her honor. The venue was decorated with golden drapes and fresh flowers. Reporters stood at the corners, waiting for a glimpse of the woman who had become a sensation overnight. As Hannah entered the hall, dressed in a flowing navy gown, people clapped. Flashlights blinked. Some stood to applaud. The mayor rushed to greet her with a wide smile. Miss Hannah, or should I say Madam CEO, he laughed, reaching out to shake her hand. Hannah smiled politely. Just Hannah is fine, Mayor David. You've done this town proud, he said. Your story is inspiring. We'd love to have you advise us on the new airport plan. You must have so much experience. Of course, Hannah said calmly. But I hope this isn't just for cameras. The mayor chuckled nervously. No, no. You deserve all of this. Later, during dinner, the mayor raised a glass and stood at the front. Everyone, I present to you the pride of Dawson Town, Hannah Dawson, founder and CEO of Phoenix Skies. A true phoenix indeed. Applause filled the room. But Hannah stood quietly, looking around the crowd, many of whom once avoided her eyes in the streets. Now they smiled as if they had always been her friends. She cleared her throat. I appreciate this welcome. Truly. But let's not forget something, kindness isn't only for the successful. It's for everyone, especially those who are struggling. Because one day, the one you laugh at today might be the one flying higher than all of you tomorrow. The room went silent. She sat down. No more applause. Just silence and reflection. The next morning, Samuel walked through the narrow path that led to his father's old house. He wore jeans, a simple shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low. He didn't want attention. He had told no one where he was going, not even Rachel. When Timothy opened the door, his eyes widened. Samuel, he asked. Samuel nodded. Can I come in? Of course, Timothy said, stepping aside. The living room was quiet and simple. A few old photos hung on the wall. Samuel noticed a dusty picture of Hannah, still sitting on the shelf. They sat across from each other. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Samuel began. Why? Timothy swallowed hard. That's a big question. Well, I need a real answer, Samuel said. You were my father. You knew Mom was pregnant, and you threw her into the rain. Timothy looked down at his hands. I was angry. I felt betrayed. Rebecca said she saw Hannah with another man. That the baby might not be mine. Samuel raised an eyebrow. And you believed her. Just like that. I did, Timothy admitted. I didn't ask questions. I didn't wait. I was young, full of pride, and full of fear. Samuel leaned back. So you let fear decide our fate. Timothy's voice cracked. I made the worst mistake of my life. Silence fell between them again. Then Timothy stood up and walked to an old box on a shelf. He pulled out a small, carefully wrapped bundle and handed it to Samuel. Inside was a tiny blue baby sweater. I bought this the day Hannah told me she was pregnant, Timothy said. I kept it, even when I tried to forget. Samuel looked at it, his hands trembling slightly. You know, I always thought I didn't need a father, Samuel said. Mom gave us everything. But now that I'm face to face with you, I realize I just needed you to care. I care, Timothy whispered. I always have. I just didn't know how to come back from the damage. Samuel nodded slowly. You can't erase what happened. But maybe you can start by telling the truth to yourself first. Timothy looked up, hopeful. Do you think there's still time? To build something with you? With Rachel? Samuel gave a half smile. With me? Maybe. But with Rachel, that will take a miracle. They both laughed quietly. The first laugh they had ever shared. Timothy placed a hand on Samuel's shoulder. You look just like me when I was your age, he said with a soft chuckle. Samuel smirked. Let's hope I make better decisions. They sat in silence for a while longer. Finally, Samuel stood. I have to go. But maybe I'll come again. I'd like that, Timothy said. Thank you for giving me this moment. As Samuel walked out, Timothy stood at the doorway, watching him leave, his heart both heavy and light. Redemption wasn't instant. But maybe, just maybe, it had begun. Hannah stood before a small crowd of town elders and city officials at the community center. Behind her was a banner that read, "A new beginning for Dawson's daughters." She adjusted the microphone. I was thrown out of this town with nothing, she began calmly. But today, I return with everything I wish someone had given me back then, hope, and a second chance. The room was silent, hanging on her every word. I'm building a school here, Hannah continued. A school for abandoned and forgotten girls. Girls like the one I used to be. They will live, learn, and grow here without fear of shame or judgment. A few people clapped. Most were still in shock. She then added, and I'm doing it right on the land where my life nearly ended, the land once owned by the Dawson family. At the back of the room, Rebecca's eyes widened in horror. She clutched her handbag tightly and stood up abruptly. "This is madness," she shouted. "You don't have the right." Hannah turned to her slowly. "The land was auctioned when Timothy's business failed. I bought it legally. Fair and square. You're just doing this to humiliate us," Rebecca spat. "You still want revenge?" "No," Hannah said, voice steady. "I already won. I don't need revenge." The next morning, Rebecca stormed into the local courthouse, clutching old papers, trying to prove some technicality in land ownership. She manipulated her way into this. Rebecca told the clerk. "She can't just come back and take over." But the lawyer shook his head after scanning the documents. "Miss Dawson," he said, "you lost the land during foreclosure. The transfer is legitimate. There's nothing more to argue." Rebecca's face twisted in disbelief. "So that's it? After everything?" "Maybe," the lawyer added gently, "it's time to let go." Meanwhile, Hannah walked through the large construction site. Bulldozers cleared the land. Builders were busy laying foundation bricks. A sign was already posted. "Phoenix School for Girls opening soon." Samuel and Rachel walked beside her, watching quietly. "You're really doing it," Rachel said softly. "A school. Here. I promised myself, if I ever got the chance, I'd give back. Not out of guilt. But because girls deserve more than I had." Samuel smiled. "It's beautiful, Mom. I'm proud of you." Hannah turned to look at a small old shed at the far end of the property. She walked toward it and stood quietly. Timothy approached slowly from behind, unsure. She turned to him. "I want to offer you a job." Timothy blinked. "What?" "As the janitor of the school." He stared at her. You want me to clean the floors?" Hannah nodded. "Yes. Every hallway, every toilet, every window." Timothy swallowed hard. "Is this a test? To humiliate me?" "No," she said calmly. "This is a test for you. To show if you've truly changed. If you can be humble. If you're willing to clean the very place you once tried to destroy." Timothy lowered his eyes. "I'll do it." "You're sure?" "I'm sure," he said softly. "I need to start again, even if it's with a mop." The grand opening of Phoenix School for Girls was a day the town would never forget. Children wore bright uniforms. Teachers lined up proudly. Reporters held microphones as a ribbon stretched across the front gate. The school stood tall and beautiful, painted white with golden phoenix wings designed on the walls. Beneath the wings was a carved line, "Where broken girls learn to fly." Hannah stood at the front, dressed in a cream suit, her arms around Samuel and Rachel. Timothy stood far in the background, broom in hand, sweeping the courtyard. He wore a plain blue shirt and brown trousers. His eyes were tired but peaceful. He didn't look up for attention. He just kept sweeping. One of the students, a shy 10-year-old named Hope, walked up to him. "Sir," she asked softly. He looked down. "Yes. Are you the cleaner?" He smiled. "Yes, I am." "I think that's cool," she said. "You're keeping our school shiny." Timothy's eyes welled up a little. "Thank you. That means a lot." Later, Hannah stood at the podium. "When I was young, I was called useless. Dirty. A mistake. But a kind man gave me a place to rest, and from that place, I found my wings. Now I'm building a nest for others to find theirs." Thunderous applause filled the courtyard. After the ribbon was cut, people cheered as the gates opened. One by one, the girls walked in, holding little books and gift bags. Some of them stopped to hug Hannah. Others waved to Rachel and Samuel. But Hannah had one final thing to do. She handed Rachel a sealed white envelope. "Place this on the desk inside Dad's shed," she whispered. "Don't say anything. Just leave it." Rachel nodded and walked away. Inside the shed, Timothy finished cleaning the small floor when he noticed the envelope resting on a desk. He opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter from Hannah. "Dear Timothy, I used to wish you'd said sorry. I used to dream about you begging for forgiveness. But now I've realized. I don't need that anymore. Thank you for showing me who I never want to be. You set me free with your silence, your pride, and your rejection. I found my wings the moment you closed the door. I forgive you. But I'll never return to the past. I'm flying now, not away from you, but toward peace. Goodbye. Hannah. Timothy sat down slowly. He held the letter to his chest, eyes full of tears. Meanwhile, outside, Hannah stood with Rachel and Samuel beside the waiting jet. The pilot opened the door, and the staircase unfolded. You ready, Mom? Rachel asked. Yes, Hannah smiled. This time, we're flying on our own terms. The three of them climbed into the jet. As the engines roared to life, the crowd gathered to wave goodbye. Hannah looked out the window one last time at the school, the children, the past she was finally closing the door on. As the plane lifted off, she whispered, we rose from ashes. And this time, the skies belonged to her. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to get more interesting stories like this.